My name is Anthony, your host. It's a Friday, the 23rd of September, a brand new day, full of opportunities, full of the glories, of course, that are going to come from the Lord. And of course, I hope you are set to get started and get your journey of investment as well, getting on the set. And of course, this day is definitely what we call the closing day of the week in the stock markets, and it's quite significant, of course, as we try to evaluate the week and look forward to the coming week. It is definitely a wonderful blessing that, of course, you have chosen to be part of financial markets here this morning. Now, a humble reminder, we can always get in touch through our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, mainly at SMART24 TV. That's our handle. The hashtag is financial markets. And if you have any concern, if you have any questions that you would want to put through, please get down to our social media platforms and get to us. SMART24 TV is now on DSTV. Channel 394, as well as GoTV channel 3. It's on DSTV channel 372 and GoTV channel 394. And you can also catch us live on our YouTube live stream. That is at SMART24 TV Live, and you will catch your latest business content. Altex East Africa is, of course, telling you that they are the #1 private stock exchange in East Africa. And with their new initiative, Zabu, you can now dial *292#, and without any hassle, you can buy bonds, securities, and other financial instruments across East Africa. All you have to do is dial *292# and choose either to buy or sell. And you choose the kind of products. You can even learn about the products using your phone, and you select the bonds that you prefer and the amount of money you're willing to invest, and then your PIN code, of course, to get that amount of your mobile money, your MTN Momo. So this is one way you're going to, of course, get a notification, and definitely that will be done. The markets at Altex open at 8:15 and close at exactly 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. Altex East Africa, do something new. And of course, joining us, of course, usually fund managers. We have different sectors, but above all, the Uganda Securities Exchange is the body that gives us information here, at which we, of course, do scrutiny and try to see that we evaluate the performance of different companies on the stock exchange, and to see that our markets thrive, the capital markets of Uganda. And this is also in conjunction with the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. Now, diving right into the financial markets and the stock market in particular, yesterday was a quite bearish market. There was a very significant decline in the all-share index, and we see that the all-share index plummeted by over 43.39 points, and that was a 3.49% decline, which is the highest recorded in this week. Now, the markets, we are seeing that closed at exactly at the all-share index, having lost 43 points, closed at 1,199.45. I think this is the first time in this week we are seeing the all-share index cross the 120 point mark. And so it's a quite significant loss there on the stock exchange. However, we had about 5 companies that participated in the daily trading, and they did indeed have very intense activity on the stock market, with big companies like Umeme trading very huge volumes, like we shall see later on the show. We also had 5 gainers and 5 bottom losers who came in at the end of the trading session. And in the gaining team, we have KCB Group leading the gainers after having gained about 25.7% on its share price, and closing the day with the price of 1,236. KCB Group came in as the top most gainer. Next top gainer was NMG, Nation Media Group. After yesterday's loss, actually he managed to recover that loss by about 6.51% price appreciation, closing the day with a price of 567.43 Ugandan shillings. Stanbic Bank Uganda is another company that also managed to appreciate in price after having gained 1.50% on their stock price and ending the day with a price of 21. That was after a trade of over 109,300 shares on the stock market yesterday. East African Breweries Limited also appreciated 1.2% on its price, closing the day with a price of 4,556.88 Ugandan shillings. That's also another cross-listed counter there who managed to accrue some increase or gain on their price. Then Equity Bank Limited gained by about 0.18%, and that is closing at a price of about 1,493.07. Those were the top 5 gainers on yesterday's trading, with only one participant, that is Stanbic Bank, who gained by participation in the trading there. And this is the only company, of course, domestically listed that managed to gain on the stock market performance yesterday. On the losing side, on the other hand, we had still 5 companies, and from the bottom we can see Bank of Baroda Uganda losing significantly, about 5.49%, and closing at 80.33 Ugandan shillings per share. And then Centum Investment Company also declined by a 2.94%, closing the day with a price of 296.08 Ugandan shillings. The other company is MTN, also lost by about 0.88%, closing the day with a price of 183.38 Ugandan shillings. Kenya Airways also lost about 0.03%, down to 121.41. And Jubilee Holdings Limited lost as well by 0.03% to 7,766.50. Those were the bottom losers, with Bank of Baroda and MTN being the only domestic equities that lost by, of course, also the trading volumes that they had. And due to this, we have already seen the all-share index declined, but also the local company index, which tracks the average performance of the local companies, definitely declined due to the poor performance of MTN and Bank of Baroda. And we're seeing that in a day it lost 0.22%, closing at 272.49 points. And when we look at the 1 week performance, it has lost about 1.44%, and in the 4 weeks it has lost about 2.64%, and then in the year-to-date loss it has lost over 16.07%, meaning that there's a little bit more work to be done to see that we rejuvenate the markets at least next week. And of course, today the day is open for trading. You can still do some work today. If you already have an SCD account, you can contact your stockbroker and get yourself some more stock on some of these losing companies. The disclaimer here is the fact that when we read out a company as a loser, it doesn't necessarily mean the company is doing bad or the company has made a loss. In actual sense, no, it doesn't. That's not the implication. But usually the implication is that that particular stock has lost demand. There is a higher supply than demand for that particular stock, and so it doesn't translate into the actual performance of the company or how the company's products are actually performing on the market. It's entirely upon you and I, the investors, to actually make this price go up or go down. So it's absolutely not up to the company, but you as an investor and a shareholder that these prices go up and down? That's, of course, some question many people always ask me. They always tell me, why always reading these companies that they have lost? It doesn't mean the company is losing in actual sense. It is just that the stock market is not playing out in favor of that company. So that is something you might as well want to take note of. Now, in terms of trading, interestingly, the stock market is very funny. You have a very good thing and a very bad thing at the same time. Now, we have already mentioned that the all-share index declined. The all-share index, for starters, tracks the average performance of all the 18 companies. Now, that is a significant indicator of the performance, first of all, of the exchange, secondly, of the economy, because usually when you look at the stock market in Nairobi, you look at the stock markets in much more developed countries like the United States, they tell a lot about the economy. They tell us a lot about how people are actually, how people are behaving with their money, how much people are actually willing to buy and invest in stock markets. Now, when you look at the volumes, yesterday there was a huge improvement in the volumes as well as the turnover. The volumes improved by 810% in a single day. We had an improvement in the volumes of 810%. That is a very significant improvement, more than 100% in a single day. And in turnover, we had 442% improvement. And we're seeing even the market capitalization moved up to 21.4 trillion from the former around 21.1 trillion. So that was a very significant, well played out market. Because when you look at the top movers, those who traded the biggest volume, Umeme came in the first place with a total of over 1.29 million shares. We're talking about a stock that owns a share of about 200 shillings, meaning yesterday alone, the company had about 200 million plus that was traded on the stock market. Now, this is a much, usually there's some of these big investors who come in and buy huge amounts of shares, but still we expect some spread out kind of activity, having different investors, individual investors or institutions also being able to buy and sell. We're looking at also the second top mover, Uganda Clays, trading her biggest volume since I think this month began. That is a 1.04 million shares that was traded, and Stanbic Bank at 109,300 shares, whereas Bank of Baroda had about 16,673. Now, these are good figures. At least they give us a picture that people are still interested in the stock market, regardless of whether the index is doing good or not. MTN still had 10,437 in its volumes. And we are seeing Uganda Clays had about 1,443,300 shares, and so on and so forth. So at least we see this improvement, much as it makes up for the kind of loss we had on the all-share index and some of the companies that actually lost value. But at least we still have to maintain this activity and, of course, get back to our feet as well. Now, when you look at the total number of shares that were bought, we had 2,469,163 shares, close to 2.5 million. Yeah, and amongst these shares, we had a market value of over 289,145 Ugandan shillings transacted. And mainly this was due to the Uganda Clays stock as well as the Umeme stock that traded very well on the market yesterday. When you look at comparing the data, we have already seen that there was an 810% improvement in the volumes and about 442% improvement in the turnover because, of course, of the huge price of the Umeme stock at 200 shillings. And so that is, in summary, what transpired on the market yesterday. Of course, we had these are the bottom losers and top gainers from Kenya that did not trade any volumes, but just had changes in the prices due to the factors that we all know now as foreign exchange rates, as well as the performance of these stocks on their domestic stock exchanges, which is basically the Nairobi Stock Exchange. But regardless, this was a very good performance, and of course, we also understand the loss of Bank of Baroda might also have impacted a few people, but we hope Bank of Baroda is one of those companies that will go down 5 shillings today, and the next day is back by 5 shillings again. So by Monday we could be having a different picture of Bank of Baroda. We hope so, but at least we can say at least we have some activity, and you and I can still be part of this wonderful adventure and a way of saving money, using our money to gain value and also to make a little more money. I would like to remind you, Altex East Africa is your #1 private stock exchange in East Africa. They are saying you can now buy securities, especially bonds, across East Africa by simply dialing *292#. Now, this is under their new initiative called Zabu, where Altex East Africa, in conjunction with Altex Clearing, have partnered with MTN Momo to bring you different securities across East Africa. You can even learn more about these products without need to access the internet. You simply dial *292# and follow the prompts, and definitely you will get there. Their bonds start at 15,000 shillings and onwards. You don't need 100,000. You need only 15,000 shillings to get yourself that bond, and that money is supposed to be on your mobile money for MTN. And of course, Altex East Africa is telling you to do something new. We're going to take a quick breather, and when we return, we are going to just look a little bit into Wumeme, and then we cross over to Nairobi in the Nairobi Stock Exchange and track the performance of the companies there. And then later on, we will give you an interview we had with Mr. Kimuli Musazi, who is an SBG trading manager, talking about treasury bonds and bills. We'll be right back. Stay with us.